What up? Surprise podcast for you right now. It's our Actors Hall of Fame. We're back. New year, new set of actors. I'm trying to think, Dustin, how many actors did we recap last year? It was Portman in January, Rockwell in February, Gyllenhaal, Gosling.
Clooney.
We did Matt Damon for August. We did Clooney and Keaton in September. And then I think we wrapped up with Denzel. So that was it. I think that's all that we did last year.
Yeah, so how many do we need to catch up on?
I think we missed 2 or 3 months. So I think that's how many we have to catch up on. But I'm not really worried about that right now because we're here to do one that's, I don't know if this is a one for us, but like it's one of our favorite actors. It is one of the best actors, one of the most entertaining, one of the most consistent actors.
Arguably,
I would say,
yeah.
arguably. It's Dustin, say hi to your mother for me. It's Mark Wahlbergers.
Mark Wahlberg.
Mark Wahlberg. That's
Marky
what we're doing
Mark.
tonight. Exactly. Marky Mark of the Funky Bunch, which I got to give you credit for this one because you're the reason who he was. I didn't know who he was before you told me about him in 7th grade.
Did you know he grew up rough in the streets of Boston?
Well, I did. Well, I did when you were
ruthless?
playing that song, "Life in the Streets." That was my introduction to Mark Wahlberg. Still, stay ingrained in my memory. So that's another reason why this is a special episode.
This is life in the streets, 'cause that's how we live in. Yeah, if I ever meet Mark Wahlberg, I'm just gonna say to him, "Yo, R.I.P. Prince Idol Joe." That's what I'm gonna say. I love how that's an original song.
Yeah,
it's like a Renaissance man, by the way.
Yeah, right.
Really funny. Like they try to like tie it into one of the characters in the movie, played by the kid from Juice, I think. The kid that played Raheem in Juice.
Oh wow.
Yeah, Khalil Kain is like he was like a drug dealer like that. Why are they doing a tie-in hood music video with a Danny DeVito working for the army? That movie's bullshit. And that was his first movie, unfortunately. Like that, the thing about Mark Wahlberg, he was.
Yeah, I was about to say, that was a really long starter tangent. I didn't know where that was going for a second.
Like he was a rapper who. I don't know what came first.
Don't forget Abercrombie Model. It was Model. I think it was Model
and Calvin Klein. It was
Calvin Klein. That's what I mean.
All right, so he was a model first, and then that. Well, his brother, first of all, Donnie Wahlberg. You know, Sixth Sense fame.
Right.
He was originally in New Kids on the Block, so I don't know. I really didn't look into that about Mark Wahlberg's history, about like actually how he became like a music star or how he even got into the music industry to begin with.
Right.
And it's really funny. Like he is kind of like a stereotype when it comes to like white rappers from the 90s that are very obscure. Cause it's like all of the stereotypes and cliches are in his music. And it's like when Eminem came on the scene and then that's the time Mark Wahlberg was acting and things. And like, there's a clip of him and Mark Wahlberg on TRL together. And he's just making fun of Mark to his face. He's like, yeah, we're all just one big fun bunch. Like, and Mark Wahlberg just looks like he wants to kill him.
That's hilarious.
So, no, but Mark Wahlberg, he really wanted to be an actor, I would say. I feel like he used the music thing as genuinely or as disingenuinely as he did to get into acting, and that got him, with Penny Marshall. And whether it was natural or not, he belongs on screen because he, like you were saying, is like one of the only mainstream current movie stars that, like, even if I don't like the movie, I usually like him in it.
Yeah.
Like I usually like his like charisma and like his style of humor, like his sense of humor, and like just the way he carries himself on screen is just kind of like just very likable and just cool. And I think he's very like, especially like comparing him to other 90s Boston, actors like fucking Matt Damon and Ben Affleck. Like there's a more like edgier, rough.
There's an edgierness to him, and there's like a more entertaining quality.
Yeah,
like,
and he actually committed hate crimes, and they didn't. But so that plays in part of it. Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, it's a thing of where it's like he's incredibly funny, he's incredibly charming, but he's also got this like I don't want to call it like crackhead energy, but to him, but it's almost like this thing of where it's like he can play like really wiry, like
Yeah.
nutty characters, but also like really calm like characters. Like honestly, looking over this top 10, this is one of the more interesting top 10s in the sense of where none of these are like traditional like leading man parts. You know, he's been in a lot of ensemble figures. He doesn't mind being he's one of the few movie stars that doesn't mind being a supporting player. You know, he'll just pop up and do like 10 minutes in some random comedy, but also then he'll be like working consistently with Peter Berg, you know, doing like 3 incredibly different, diverse, but like one could regard important performances across the 3 movies that he did with Peter Berg. And then unfortunately they had to go and do Spencer Confidential together. But then he's also in Michael Bay Transformers movies. Like his filmography is all over the place. He's done some of the best movies. He's done some of the worst movies. Like, and in fairness, the movies that he started out with, he kind of got a little bit spoiled working with, you know, in such efforts like Fear and Basketball Diaries. What's it called? Anything before that, I would have you'll probably know better than me. But obviously, his big break comes with Boogie Nights with Paul Thomas Anderson, and then he's kind of off to the races from there. Do you have any honorable mentions before we get started?
I just want, yeah, I'll name a couple, but I just want to say I genuinely don't dislike him in any movie. I really don't. Even if you could argue like in The Lovely Bones or The Happening, like maybe he might have been miscast, he's still watchable and entertaining in those movies
Yes.
to me. But the big omissions that I'm gonna have in here, uh Lone Survivor, he was
Oh,
very good.
really?
Joe Bell, he's very good in that as
Haven't
well.
seen it.
Where he plays like the whole movie. He's the dad of a gay son, and he's talking to the ghost of his gay son, and it's actually not bad. Is Scoob, his little voice role in Scoob, he was the best part about that. He's very funny in that. Flight Risk, the new Mel Gibson movie, where he doesn't have a whole lot to do character wise in terms of, like they don't give a lot to him, like they don't give a lot of development to his character, but he relishes his screen time for sure and is one hell of a villain. And I want to see more unhinged roles like that for him. And my number 11 is Four Brothers, the
Okay.
film 2005, which is he's Bobby Mercer in that, named after the
Bobby
Yankee.
Mercer.
And it's great ensemble. He really carries that movie, and
Yeah.
he elevates it from being like a schlocky B movie. Like it's a very good collaboration between him and John Singleton and the rest of the ensemble. It's the first Garrett Hedlund movie too, and
That's the
yeah,
first one?
it's either that or Friday Night Lights.
I think it's Friday Night. Friday Night Lights was the year before.
Like, but this was definitely the first movie because I remember the marketing for this movie and the posters when it was coming out, and I was like, "Who's that guy on the end?" I was like, "Who is this? A random white guy with?" I was like, "What is this movie?" I was
Dustin,
but
real quick,
really good, and Mark Wahlberg's nuts in it.
real quick, we just got a comment, actually.
Yeah,
Our first ever comment on our Actors Hall of Fame. Have you seen Patriots Day, though? Well, if you're who I think you are, then you may see that on one or both of our lists, is all that I'm going to say.
I'm at Hold Your Horses there,
Yeah. My honorable mentions that I have, I've only got a few because I'm missing a decent amount of his movies. For example, I haven't seen The Perfect Storm. I have not seen Lone Survivor. I have not seen I Heart Huckabees. A couple others on there. I have not seen Invincible. So a couple blind spots on there. But I have, for my honorable mentions, I have The Gambler, Date Night, Two Guns, Deepwater Horizon, and number 11 is Ted. Fell just right outside the top 10 for me. So, without further ado, let's get to it. Dustin, what is your number 10?
Ted.
Wow. It was like neck and neck. It was neck and neck.
If you hear the sound of thunder, don't you get too scared. Just grab your thunder buddy and say these magic words. Fucking good movie.
Yeah.
It's a good movie. And Mark Wahlberg with this and the second Ted movie, like he's not a lazy comedic actor, like at all. Like he's hilarious in both of those movies and has good comedic and romantic chemistry with his romantic love interest in the movie, Mila Kunis in the first, Amanda Seyfried in the second. And I think both of them are very good for what they are, especially the first one is very rewatchable. And it was one of the better comedy movie experiences from that year. Loved seeing that. Even though I saw it like right in the front row. but it was great. And Mark Wahlberg is just hilarious, and it was the perfect movie after the other guys to really showcase like no it was like a similar like thing when James Franco started doing comedies where it's like, oh no, he really is like the real deal and like can like improvise with the best of them. And those are my favorite kind of actors that really can surprise you in comedies, even though they're just as explosive in dramas.
Yeah, yeah. Like I said, it was neck and neck. It was really, really close between this and my number 10. Really, really good, funny movie though. My number 10, my David O. Russell insert. I feel like it's funny because I have like the two inserts from I would say two of the directors that he's worked with the most on here, but it's like alternative entries to what most people have. Most people would probably have I Heart Huckabees for their Wahlberg entry, other than their second Wahlberg entry from David O. Russell. I should say I have Three Kings. I watched this movie recently. I had a really, really good time with it. Very, very interesting premise. O. Russell making an anti-war movie in the middle of the Gulf War invasion, released in 1999. This was going to be on my list for the 25 best movies from that year, where you got George Clooney, Mark Wahlberg, Ice Cube, and Spike Jonze. Spike Jonze is not on the poster, and he's often forgotten, but he is part of the ensemble as they go on a hunt for some of the treasure that was left behind by Saddam in Kuwait. It's very funny. It's very entertaining. It's very heartwarming as well. It's got a good message at the end, basically about how the American military sucks. And Wahlberg, as far as being like kind of the energetic number two, who's also like about like doing the right thing. There's a particularly gruesome torture sequence in here as well. This is like a really, really good follow-up to show like what he was capable of after Boogie Nights. And so, yeah, this has to be on there for me. Three Kings.
That's my number 9.
Ha! Look at that.
Yeah, he's terrific in this, and I would say, yeah, it's the least favorite Mark Wahlberg performance out of the 3 O. Russell collaborations he's done, but he's terrific in this movie. Like
Yes.
he's kind of the de facto lead, I would say. He's a perfect like audience avatar. Like you do root for him the whole time. That one scene with Party All the Time is like an all timer for
Awesome.
me.
Awesome.
He's like, this is not good music. And he just turns it on. Fucking funny. And yeah, Mark Wahlberg's great in the torture sequence too with the guy from Lahain.
Yeah.
Like that's great. That's just David O. Russell's an amazing director. I don't give a shit what anybody says. But Mark Wahlberg and him are just one of the best director actor combinations, I would say. And all 3 of their collaborations are great.
Yeah. You looking forward to David O. Russell's Madden?
Yeah, I'm curious, but I would have chosen John C. Reilly instead of Nicolas Cage as John Madden.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I mean, that's just a no-brainer in my opinion.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right, my number 9, Basketball Diaries. It made Leo's top 10, and it makes Mark's top 10. A lot of people with 95 with Mark go with Fear. I didn't watch that, but I just got to say, for him being supporting to DiCaprio, who was already like bearing his soul to the world in this movie, Wahlberg just is like the unhinged number 2. Like he's the guy. If DiCaprio's the vulnerable one, Wahlberg's the guy that's like the devil on his shoulder that's just urging him to do all these bad deeds. He's just it's just like to me, this is like a perfect demonstration of what he was capable of as a young actor. You know, just kind of still had a little bit of the tough Boston street kid in him. You know, just very, very angry, very, you know, hot-headed and such. And yeah, he's scary in this movie, both when he's like, you know, in his like ferociously charged moments, and also when he's also is going through withdrawal, and when he's living homeless with DiCaprio in this movie. Yeah, Basketball Diaries, incredible movie.
Yeah, more on that later. My number 8 is I Heart Huckabees, the second David O. Russell collaboration. Absolutely great, one of a kind performance from Mark Wahlberg in this. It's one of the most difficult movies to describe, but all I can say since I saw it when I was a kid is like it's the comedy Inception. It's like the Inception of comedies.
What?
Like almost like just the way it's just very hard to describe this movie. Like just the premise of it. It's just better off just going into it blind, like I did. But the entire ensemble is really unique and cool. But Mark Wahlberg just has like some of the funniest and most poignant moments in the movie, and he has great chemistry with everybody on screen, and just a very unique character. And it just showed his range, and I just think it's very underappreciated in his filmography.
Yeah, this is one of those movies that I have heard so much about and yet know nothing about. Like I have no clue what this movie is about at all. My number 8, this is a fun one. This is one that I have very fond memories of watching with my brothers. I think this is where we kind of like collaborated. Man, if there was one thing that the three of us bonded over, it was early 2000s like heist action movies. Like we loved the Jason Bourne movies, we
Oh, the
loved the
Italian
Ocean's
Job.
movies, and we loved the Italian Job from F. Gary Gray, like one of the best heist movies, honestly, that I've ever seen. The remake of the Michael Caine movie, and I gotta say, it's really entertaining. It's Mark Wahlberg leading another excellent ensemble cast. Charlize Theron, Ed Norton is the bad guy. Donald Sutherland did at the beginning. Jason Statham, Seth Green, Mos Def. Great movie, great ensemble. Wahlberg is he is just effortlessly charming in this. Like, he knows exactly what he's doing there. You know, he's the level-headed guy. He's the thinker. He's the planner. He's the one who sees all... He gets to play the chess master, the one who sees all the pieces. It's kind of funny because this is one of the few times where he actually gets to play smart. And, it works. It works so well. Great movie. I just think of smooth when I think of this movie.
Mm-hmm. All right, my number 7, The Basketball Diaries.
All right.
Yeah, this is a fucking wild movie, and it would probably just be like a melodramatic mess without the performances of Leonardo DiCaprio and Mark Wahlberg.
Yes.
Like Mark Wahlberg is just, like you said, he's scary good in this,
Yeah.
and like this is definitely his breakthrough performance for sure. Like this is the movie that got him Boogie Nights, because because Leonardo DiCaprio was originally going to play Dirk Diggler. Paul Thomas Anderson offered it to him, but he took Titanic instead.
Right.
But he recommended Mark Wahlberg for it, and the rest
Look
is
at that.
history. And absolutely, you can see like little pieces of Dirk Diggler in this character as well. But
Yes.
it just felt like an honest role, and I'm glad that he fought to get this role because he related to it a little too much, I would say.
Yeah.
But maybe not the drug use.
Yeah.
The rampant,
But the violent aspect. Remember when he puts a gun up to his head? He's like, "Don't make me! I'll do it, Johnny. I swear to God." That was great.
yeah, a really good movie. Has 50s vibes in it too, but like in a cool way. Cool autobiography of that guy. And that's the same guy who did that song that's in but Dawn of the Dead remake, and in the beginning of the Suicide Squad.
These are the people who died?
Yeah, these are the people. That's the guy. That's the guy Leo plays. Yeah.
Really?
Yep.
Wow. That's who that is.
Yep.
Interesting.
So that's my number 7, The Basketball
Got it.
Diaries.
A nice deep pull. My number 7. It was your number 11. Four Brothers. Love this movie.
Oh, Four Brothers.
Love this movie. Yeah.
What about 8 Brothers?
What about 12 Brothers? No, it's this movie's great. I read the premise online. I'm like, this sounds badass. Found it on demand when I was a kid. This is one of the first movies that I remember seeking out to watch because I'm like, this just sounds awesome, and it was everything that I wanted and more. Mark Wahlberg, Tyrese Gibson, Garrett Hedlund, and Andre Benjamin portray 4 adopted brothers who come back to avenge their mother's death when they discovered that she's died in a robbery gone wrong, and discovered that it goes way deeper than they originally thought. I was talking to you about this last night. This features my favorite villainous Chiwetel Ejiofor performance, who is just who he rarely gets to play this type of evil, but yeah, Victor Sweet, just an amazing title. Also, I believe this is one of the first times I ever saw Sofia Vergara in something as Tyrese Gibson's girlfriend,
as a person who should have been on the cutting room floor.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, but like I said, didn't say she was good. First time that I saw her, though. And yeah, like I said, this movie's solid. It's great. It's one of my favorite John Singleton movies after Boys in the Hood. Yeah, very, very, very awesome movie. Satisfying. And yeah, Wahlberg is awesome in this as the lead. Like when he's just walking across the ice at the end as he's getting ready for the showdown with Chiwetel. It's great. Love this movie.
Not you. The Fighter.
Yes.
Number 6. The best of the David O. Russell collaborations with Mark Wahlberg. For sure. What a great movie. Pretty much a perfect movie, I would say. A perfect sports drama. Great boxing movie. The dynamic, the brother dynamic between half brothers Mickey Ward and Dickie Eklund, played by Mark Wahlberg and Christian Bale, in was perhaps maybe his best performance, his most transformative performance for sure. and it's the movie that really like it convinced everybody. Like, oh yeah, Christian Bale is like the
Yep.
fucking best, and like
By the way,
Melissa
we will
Leo
be
is
doing.
great,
Yeah.
and Amy Adams is great. Oh yeah, Christian Bale's overdue for a list
Yeah,
also.
I was about to say we will be
But
doing
like,
Christian Bale this year.
but what I was gonna say is like Mark Wahlberg gets so like overshined and like doesn't get talked about, like, because he is great in this movie. Like, no one, it's a shame that like he was definitely trying to get a best actor nom that year for this, and like no one even gave a shit
Yeah,
really.
which
And it's a
was
shame because like, he was terrific.
ridiculous.
He was terrific in this, and like is a great protagonist. He does disappear into the role to a certain degree. Like he is playing a more dim-witted guy, or like more like simple guy than Mark Wahlberg is. Like he's a lot more like more of a pushover in this movie, and lets people manipulate him a little bit more. But then him and Amy Adams, their relationship in this is beautiful. Mark Wahlberg's phenomenal in this movie, and the fact that this is only his sixth best performance really shows how much range he has at the end
Yeah.
of the day.
Yeah.
So the fighter.
More on that in a little bit. My number 6, Patriots Day, the Peter
Ooh.
Berg movie of the three. Man, 2016 was kind of low-key a sneaky good year for Peter Berg between this and Deepwater Horizon. Both movies that I didn't really have a lot of
That
expectations for,
I didn't
but
see.
like,
That's one of the few marks.
Deepwater Horizon was solid. It was very, very solid. It was mostly centered around like the action and the explosion, but like once the fireworks start going, like that movie is very, very tense. And Wahlberg's solid in this, but this one, it's kind of interesting how again Peter Berg makes two different movies that are both kind of like tension building surrounding these like massive events, you know, and an oil rig explosion and the Boston Marathon bombing, you know, and the subsequent search for it. But Wahlberg is again another kind of just a piece of the puzzle, you know, working alongside like Kevin Bacon and John Goodman and J.K. Simmons.
Yeah.
And all the various other peoples. It's still hilarious to me that that's Alex Wolff as one of the two bombers.
It's great.
It's
great.
awesome. But yeah, this is like one of those like sneaky movies that kind of snuck up on you with the end of 2016. Like it was like very end. I was like pretty much ready to be done with you, and then I saw this movie and I'm like, wow, this is like great. Like this is one of those, again, not expecting it to be as good, but Wahlberg is very down to earth. You know, he gets to return to Boston, but in a little bit more of like, you know, a kind of a giving back. I saw this as his way of like giving back to Boston in a way with this movie. And yeah, also again, only 3 years after the initial bombing, which is pretty crazy too. Yeah, Patriots Day, really, really solid work.
All right, my number 5 is Patriots Day, directed by Peter Berg.
We are literally just circling each other.
You were just talking about that? Okay.
Yeah, I know, right? Crazy.
But talk about surprises. Like that was probably the biggest surprise of that year. I love that movie. It still holds up. Great. Probably my favorite Peter Berg movie, honestly. Just even if things like Mark Wahlberg, let's just, get this out of the way. I don't think that guy existed that he's playing. Pretty sure he didn't exist.
Highly likely.
Pretty sure he didn't exist. But you know what? It's a movie. This is a story, people.
It's a story.
It's a fucking story. And as far as stories go, it's fucking great. It's pretty goddamn compelling. And Mark Wahlberg, it's kind of worth it seeing his big breakdown scene in the middle of the movie, which is like among like the best scenes in his filmography, I would say, like in terms of acting. Like he's just completely amazing in that sequence. But like from the beginning too, like, oh, it's a smoothie, like a smoothie. Like, it's just the way he's talking to the criminals, like in the beginning, like it's great. I love him in this movie. Like his chemistry with everybody is great. Like the whole ensemble is like superb, and I just think it's one of the most underrated movies of the 2010s, personally. And I just think it's one of his most underrated performances. But NIFA nominated. Cool.
Yep, I could not agree more. That is all I'm going to say. My number 5, The Other Guys. I'm a peacock. You gotta let me fly. Oh, this movie's. The more I think about it, this might be my favorite of the Adam McKay comedies. It really might be. It's pretty fucking great. The one-liners, they keep getting better with each year. The twists and turns, the surprises, the gags. This was like,
that's
this
not
like,
crazy for you saying it because like
no.
I love pretty much all of the.
I know, but like for me, like this is the one that like really hit me the hardest in terms of just the funnies. You know, this kind of helps set the template.
I've always loved it.
I make the argument that this kind of helps set the template for comedy for the 2010s, you know, considering that it came out in 2010, which the more I think about it might be the best year of that decade. Just like there's so many bangers and very, very few misses that year. And every year I consistently am entertained by movies from that year, and this is no exception. I mean, come on, the get it, play no shit. It's amazing, and Wahlberg is like it's the first time that you saw these two paired up, and even though it's been kind of overworked to death in those Daddy's Home movies, there was something really really special happening here. It's again Wahlberg.
You need the right script and right character dynamic.
The thing about Wahlberg in comedy is that Wahlberg is going to give the same level of commitment to comedy that he would for something like drama. The thing is that with comedy, that's when he gets to really play over the top. And he gets to really play like to kind of the dumbness of it. And that's kind of where it really works. And while Ted, it's more of a sentimental kind of a way, this is way more of like a vicious, just like on the nose, not giving a fuck kind of a way. And it's really, really funny. And how it's punching holes in all of the cop tropes and everything. The other guys, it's phenomenal.
I think we all experience our own ballet today. A ballet of emotion, feeling. Number 4, the other guys.
Fuck yeah! Oh my god, we are literally just circling each other back and forth.
Sorry, I love the other guys. I mean, I was there opening weekend. I was dying laughing from beginning to end. From the Ice-T. I mean, it's narrated by Ice-T. It's the other guys. It's like perfect. Like
Aim for the bushes.
It's great. It's great. Like it's just a near perfect comedy. It's really the last great Will Ferrell comedy. Let's be real.
Yeah.
Even though I do like Will Ferrell, but like I love Will Ferrell, but like
he's dying. He's dying.
We're
chasing waterfalls.
Yeah. First it was with the chasing waterfalls. Now it's the no scrubs. Like I don't know what that is. Michael Keaton is amazing in this. Oh my god! Yeah, we did. We did Michael Keaton.
Yeah, we talked about it with Michael Keaton. We're probably going to talk about it when we get to Sam Jackson too, if we're being real honest.
I don't know about that.
You don't think so? All right.
Sam Jackson has like a way bigger.
Yeah, Sam Jackson's got like 4 decades worth of.
We talked about. I think.
Yeah, he's got so many.
No, he's like in 90 movies a year, but like, Mark Wahlberg is like, it was just so refreshing to see him in this movie. Like I was saying, like it was like the James Franco and Pineapple Express kind of thing where it's like, oh, it's so good to see this guy finally get out of his comfort zone and do something crazy and fun and like genuinely funny. And like Will Ferrell usually has good chemistry with most people, whether the movie's good or bad. Like he has a good rapport with most people. And I guess you grow accustomed to that if you're on SNL as long as he was. But like he really is an expert, back and forth with people, and in no matter any movie. And him and Mark Wahlberg might like be a better combo in that movie than John C. Reilly and him.
I think so. I think so.
Like their dynamic is just so specific and funny, and like just a great odd couple. Like I mean, it's like the modern day Midnight Run.
Yeah, it's like one of those things where it's like it's constantly telling you this shouldn't work, but they're just they work so well together.
It's like this movie's like a more absurdist Midnight Run. The more I think about it,
it kind of is
mixed with like Running Scared.
Yes,
another like cool mismatched buddy cop movie with Billy Crystal and Gregory Hines, which is also super underrated and another movie Dominic should watch and would like. And I just think top to bottom, I think it is one of the best comedies. And I just love Mark Wahlberg's arc. And like he shot Derek Jeter. And he can't live that down. And I bet that must have been Mark Wahlberg's idea.
Had to be.
There's
no way it wasn't.
Like
no way it wasn't.
Yeah, because I know that like the story behind him being in this movie was like they were like he wanted to do a comedy with somebody, and he kept meeting with a bunch of like comedic actors, and it just wasn't gelling. And he met with Adam McKay and Will Ferrell, and immediately 10 minutes in, he's like, "All right, I don't care what it's about, I'll do it. Oh, well, I'll do this movie." So I doubt that they had that idea that it was going to be Derek Jeter. I bet he came up with that idea.
They came up with that.
Yeah. I bet he came up with it.
Probably.
But whatever. But yeah, that's my number 4. The other
All
guys,
right.
great movie. Love it.
My number 4, Pain and Gain, Michael Bay. The thing that, unfortunately, even though it led to the Transformers 2 movies that he did with him afterwards, this movie's really fucking great. This movie is like, I feel like before toxic masculinity became like a mainstream term, this is the movie that was like satirizing it probably the best in like a way that only Michael Bay can do, where his whole thing of like showing that these guys are idiots is just having the story play out and have them be absolute fucking idiots. And this is like the most bro-y, the most Jersey Shore-y that Wahlberg has ever been or done. But he still makes it like humanized, and he still makes it as entertaining as hell. Surrounded by, again, an oddball cast that somehow we're all giving like some of the best performances. Like The Rock gives his best performance. Anthony Mackie, Rob Corddry, Ken Jeong, Ed Harris, Tony Shalhoub. Like an insanely talented cast for a stupid crime comedy that ends up being a lot darker than it should be.
And smarter.
Also, exactly, and smarter. Some of the greatest one-liners. Like, I have rewatched scenes from this movie so often. Like, again, The Rock kind of takes all the attention, so much so that one might almost forget about how good Mark Wahlberg is. Also, the fact that literally every single character has a voiceover narration, almost like it's parodying Goodfellas, but it somehow works. I love this movie. I love this movie, and Wahlberg is great in it. The opening scene when he's doing fucking, what's it called? Fucking crunches with his legs sticking in a wall, and then he sees the cop car coming, and he's like, fuck! And then he runs. It's from that moment on, the movie's great. Like, 5-star movie. Incredible movie.
No, what is he chanting when he's doing the pull-ups? He's like,
I'm hot!
I'm hot!
I'm hot! Yeah.
It's great.
When he says up the neighborhood watch defense thing.
No, number 3. I know you are, and I know you're not.
You're not.
You know fucking
cop.
Number 3, Departed. Only because he's the least, he has the least amount of screen time in it out of like all of these performances in my top 10. And it's the only Oscar nominated performance, but he does steal every goddamn moment he has.
Yes,
from
he does.
The first scene to the last that he has. He's amazing in it. He probably has like a total of like 9 minutes of screen time, maybe. I don't know, but it's definitely close to that. He's not. His scenes don't go on that long.
They don't. Really, they're very brief.
He might be in it like 11 minutes tops.
Yeah.
But like, I really think like the way he makes a mark on this movie, the fact that he got nominated over Nicholson that year is just. It still blows my mind. It really does. As great as Nicholson is in that too, you can't really be mad at them nominating Wahlberg. It is a cool nomination. Like, it really is. Yeah. And like the fact that like he does, like, you know, if you weren't convinced by Mark Wahlberg by 2006 and you saw that movie, I don't know what else it's going to take for you to be convinced. Yeah. Like that, like he like, especially when he gets to act opposite Jack Nicholson in that one scene, it's like, oh my God, he really is like maybe one of the great modern day actors. Yeah. You know, alongside Leo and Matt Damon. Yeah. You know, and it's really remarkable work. He is like a very, he comes across like he's going to be like one of the more unlikable characters in the movie until you realize how scummy everybody else is, pretty much, other than Leonardo DiCaprio and Martin Sheen. Yep. You know what I mean? So it's like, yeah, like you understand like why he's so bitter through, like, just because of how like there's a possibility of like somebody like Matt Damon infiltrating and fucking up the whole thing. And I mean, the ending, call it crazy, call it, you know, too good to be true, or, you know, call the rat running across the thing over the top and on the nose. It's a perfect movie, and he's great in it. And he really just, like, the first time I saw that, I was like, oh my God, great. That's great. That's perfect. He has the fucking, the footies on, the booty things on it. Perfect. The Perfect Crime. This movie should have been called The Perfect Crime. Isn't
there another movie called The Perfect Crime?
No, I'm kidding. I was just, you know, going on a tangent. But other than that, I saw Infernal Affairs, by the way, and it's not better than The Departed because they don't say microprocessors in it.
Microprocesses.
So that's a really big important part of this movie for me, and Mark Wahlberg says it first. So yeah, I he's great in this, and you'll understand why it's only my number 3.
Yep. I think I already do. But my number 3, The Fighter. I had this way up there. The Oscar nomination that was, you're right, this is probably his most Oscar-y performance, but if you ask me, it's the one that he really should have been nominated for. The Departed is an awesome nomination. It is. It really is. But the fact that it's his only nomination, like I said, everybody talks about, they're like, oh, Wahlberg only should have been nominated 2 times. I'm like, Wahlberg should have been nominated 3 times. Max of 3. Boogie Nights, he should have been nominated for. Departed, which he got. And then The Fighter is his 3rd one. He is just... This is probably the most vulnerable that I've seen him be post Boogie Nights in anything, in the sense of where he's a guy who, it's not the classic kind of, oh, the guy keeps getting, shot down and, and missing out on a chance. It's the fact that it shows that Wahlberg is the guy who is constantly being weighed down by his toxic family, his drug addict brother and his overbearing mother, to the point where he literally feels like he has to give up on himself in order to actually pursue the dream of boxing, because he feels like it's so intertwined with this family unit that he's known for his entire life. And Wahlberg plays that really, really close to home, This is another movie that, again, in 2010, one of the all-time best years. That's the other thing, too. He had this and The Other Guys in the same year. Like, 2010 might be one of the greats of all time. Like, that year is incredible. And he should have been nominated for this. The Fighter, number 3.
Number 2, Pain and Gain. I'm a doer. Brilliant. He's brilliant in this. He blew my mind in this movie. The movie blew my mind when I first saw it, really. And I just think it's one of the most rewatchable movies of the last decade. It's Michael Bay's best movie. It's The Rock's best movie. Probably the best Marcus McFeely movie.
That's right. They wrote this. That's so crazy to me.
You're right. The writers of Endgame wrote Pain and Gain. It's crazy. But I Anthony. It's probably my favorite Anthony Mackie role too. Love him in this. Just it blows my mind that Michael Bay did this story justice. Like, it's just like one of the most fascinating true crime stories, and it's great because, like, it was his passion project since the 90s when it happened, and he'd been wanting to make it for decades, and I guess he had to make a bunch of horse shit before that, and like, so
couple
like
Bad Boys, Pearl Harbor, 3 Transformers
Armageddon,
movies,
The
Island,
everything, etc. But like, it's worth it if you honestly, if you make a movie like this, anybody that makes a movie like, it's worth it. It's like, it's just, I'm glad you're a director and did what you did. I don't give a shit that you made Transformers. This movie's great, and it ticks off all the boxes. I love a good crime comedy. It's a great dark comedy. It's a great tragedy. It's a great, like, American dream, story. And even though it does, like, of course, like every historical based on a true story movie, like, it does, like, fabricate some stuff, it does get a lot of stuff right. I mean, it is kind of a miracle that they made, like, the Dwayne Johnson character like an amalgam, and he still became, like, probably the most entertaining aspect of the movie. But to comment on what you were saying about it, I think Mark Wahlberg has probably the most difficult job in this, because, like, the way he carries this movie is, like, insanely vital. Like if you're not with that performance, or like intrigued by that character from the beginning, then the whole movie, like, falls apart. And that's why I feel like it's probably the most polarizing movie of the 2010s, arguably, because, like, there's nobody who's, like, mixed on this movie. It's either you hate it or you love it. I've never heard anybody go like, oh, that movie was okay. Like, no, like, people have a strong opinion about this movie because of how visceral it becomes in the third act, deliberately so. Like, but Mark Wahlberg, he completely knew what kind of a movie this was, and, like, he's scary in this. Like, he's downright, like, vicious and scary.
He is. This is the most sociopathic
simultaneously. Oh yeah, psycho. He's psycho in this. Are you kidding me? He's a psychopath in this. But, like, at textbook. But, like, he's just, because he still doesn't think what he did was wrong. The character, at least. But, like, if this is Michael Bay's version of satire, I want this every time from him, honestly.
Yeah.
And Ambulance did have like that Pain and Gain energy to a
It
certain
did. It did.
just a little bit.
It did.
But mixed brilliantly with like his sensibilities from like earlier in his work. But
Yes.
like he's finally like figuring his shit out. But
Yes.
Pain and Gain, I still don't think he's ever going to top. And
Yeah.
I think the way Mark Wahlberg, like you said, like the way his narration is utilized in this movie, and like when I was younger, I thought like at first I was like, oh, maybe like Mark Wahlberg is like actually narrating like everybody's voice until that fell apart in my head because I was on Adderall. So anyway, what's your number 2?
My number 2. Oh boy, here we go. Boogie Nights. Yep. It was between this and Departed. I went back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. But yeah, this is number 2. It's the role that made him. It is the role that made him. Like you said, DiCaprio recommended him to Paul Thomas Anderson, and the rest is history. This is, again, the most vulnerable. This is probably one of the best breakout performances that I've seen for any actor ever, possibly. I mean, I know we had Fear in the Basketball Diaries before this, but this is the movie that really showed, no, this guy's a star. This guy's a fucking star. Like, he does, like, just watching the growth of him from Eddie Adams into Dirk Diggler, how he goes from this precocious kid who's abused to finally finding this family unit, to thinking that he's all that and kind of blowing it, to trying to go on his own and failing miserably, to getting in way over his head, like the levels and range that he has to cover in this movie. And this movie, again, it's a breakout for a lot of people because other than Burt Reynolds, again, Paul Thomas Anderson, this is really his breakout feature. I mean, the amount of talent that really was coming onto the scene in this movie: Julianne Moore, Don Cheadle, John C. Reilly, Philip Seymour Hoffman. William H. Macy was a little bit older than them, but he would this was a kind of another, mark in his flawless 90s track record.
Fargo.
Heather Graham, Louise Guzman. The list goes on and on. Like, this is one of the all-time great ensemble movies, and it's another one where Wahlberg is kind of at the center of it, and he just nails every minute of it, right until the end, where he just shows off that very obviously fake prosthetic penis. And yeah, like I said, it was so close. It was so close, but ultimately there can only be one, as they say, for my number 1. But your number 1, I take it, is Boogie Nights.
You've got the touch.
You've got the power. I'm trying to do it like he does it, where it's like he's just off like a little bit. Like, it's just a little bit enough to be noticeable.
I know karate. I mean, it's obviously Boogie Nights.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so obviously Boogie Nights. I mean, I don't want to sound arrogant, but it is objectively his best performance. This checks every box. Like, if you saw Boogie Nights before the other guys, you shouldn't have been surprised that he could do comedy.
Yeah,
I would say, because like he checks off great comedic moments, brilliant dramatic moments, sometimes in the same scene. It's just a brilliant work. And culminating in the climax, in that brilliant one of my favorite scenes of all time with Alfred Molina.
Yes.
Like
Rahad Jackson.
Like someone like Mark Wahlberg, a street tough kid like him from Boston. He looks like the most scared person in a movie. I think in that scene.
He dropped a lot of weight for this. I know.
Oh, great. Yeah, good for him. But he did all the method work for this. Like, he knew. Even though, like, he'll say, like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have done it because I'm a Jesus freak now and I apologized about blinding a guy. But, like, no, this is the best work of your career. Don't be ashamed of it. You should work with Paul Thomas Anderson again.
Yeah, seriously.
Really. You really should. That shouldn't have stopped.
Yeah.
The
irony being that Paul Thomas Anderson is finally working with DiCaprio in his new movie that's coming out later this year, which I think has the working title of One Battle After Another.
No, but you said it right. Like, I'll still say, like, the Basketball Diaries is his breakthrough performance, but Boogie Nights really proved that
this made him a star.
A big, bright, shining star. I was going to tie it into the ending. You goof. Okay. Explain why The Departed, a performance that's the 8th of the length of Boogie Nights, is better than the performance he gives in Boogie Nights.
I'll tell you why, Dustin. Because you're the guy. What's it called? I'm the guy who
Okay,
does
you
his
fucked
job.
it up.
You was
You fucked
the
it up.
guy I fucked it up
No, you
already.
fucked it up. I didn't
I
even
fucked it
interrupt
up.
you, and you fucked it
Nope.
up.
I
No,
always do this.
no
I do this
do-overs.
every single
No,
time.
explain
No,
why.
The
Explain
Departed's
why
great.
it's your number
The
one.
Departed's great. It's awesome. It's so entertaining. I mean, you want to talk about just making the most with the least. You're right. He has the least amount of screen time. I'm pretty sure he has less screen time than Vera Farmiga and fucking David O'Hara and Ray Winstone. And yet somehow he makes the most of it. Again, they only had him for like 4 days, so they had to shoot all the scenes there. But again, I mean,
I think Ray has less.
the opening intimidation scene with DiCaprio alone, where he like basically breaks down DiCaprio's entire. It's incredible. It's unbelievable. I've never seen an introductory scene from a character that much. And like when you see just how natural Wahlberg is with that part, especially since that's another part that comes so close to like to home for him, as far as like he literally said, he's like, yeah, I was just playing the cops that would beat the shit out of me as when I was a kid, you know.
I also want to add, like, I'm glad that Scorsese decided to cast Mark Wahlberg,
because in another universe that part was Ray Liotta, like Wahlberg.
Yeah. And I think it works better with a younger actor.
It does.
Like, and it's funny that Mark Wahlberg almost turned this movie down. Like, he turned it down at first.
Right.
And Scorsese had to, like, convince him.
Well, the irony being, too, that, like, he's ultimately the character that contributes the least. Also, if you think about it, to the plot, which again is another testament to the performance, the fact that he's that memorable. He's the only one nominated for this movie, and he literally, again, not only has the least amount of screen time, but contributes the least to the plot. But still, also,
I think he contributes a lot to the plot off screen. But
off screen, yes.
Off screen, he definitely does a lot, like with the plot. So that's why it never bothered me, like the length of his character, especially.
He's the last character that you see on screen. You know, again, he still serves out justice to Damon at the end. You know, when Damon thinks he's gotten away scot free, and Wahlberg's had to remind him, motherfucker, the piper always gets paid before he clips him. It's awesome. He's got. Him and Leo are the ones that have all the memorable one-liners in this movie. You know, like when he beats the shit out of Matt Damon. You know, obviously before Alec Baldwin tells him world needs plenty of bartender. Again, and another iconic line. My theory on feds, they like mushrooms. Feed him shit, keep him in the dock. It's incredible.
It's a great performance, but it's less of like a best performance of someone's career and more of like the perfect like character actor performance.
Which, if anything, is kind of why I love it for Wahlberg's number one. Because even though he is a movie star,
as much of an arc as he does in Boogie Nights.
Right.
You know what I mean?
But I guess just in terms of, because for me, it sums up everything that I love about Wahlberg in the sense of, again, the classic leading man that can do it all. But as far as how he views himself, he always is more on the fringe of, again, like you said, wanting to be that character actor. Like you see kind of a little, again, there's character acting in really all of these performances that we've talked about tonight.
Yeah.
And that kind of is why, for me, The Departed over Boogie Nights is the number one. And Boogie Nights is just more of the breakout.
Okay.
You know, not saying that overall, like I have no case, but like I'm saying, there is a reason for me.
If he didn't do Boogie Nights, he wouldn't have had that Oscar
agree.
nomination for The Departed.
I agree. All right, so for the combined list, Boogie Nights 1, Departed at 2.
For definitely
has to be,
and then Pain and Gain 3,
and then Pain and Gain 3. Pain and Gain 3, and then you want to do The Fighter or the other? No, let's do the other guys at 4.
Other guys at 4, Fighter at 5.
Yes. Fighter, and then what does that leave for our 3 combined choices? We have it's Patriots Day, Basketball Diaries, and Three Kings are the other ones
that order
we have. Okay.
6, 7, 8, right there.
Yep, Patriots Day.
Basketball Diaries at 7.
Yep.
Three Kings at 8.
And then what do you want? So that leaves us 2 spots. So you pick one, I'll pick one solo. My pick is
Four Brothers.
I'm gonna go with Four Brothers.
And I'm gonna go with Ted.
All right. So Ted at 9, Four Brothers at 10.
Let's do Ted at 10.
All right. All right. And with that being said, the Mark Wahlberg Hall of Fame Talkin' TV edition. Number 10, Ted, directed by Seth MacFarlane. Number 9, Four Brothers, John Singleton. Number 8, Three Kings, David O. Russell. Number 7, Basketball Diaries, Scott Calvert. Number 6, Patriots Day, Peter Berg. Number 5, The Fighter, David O. Russell. Number 4, The Other Guys, Adam McKay. Number 3, Pain and Gain, Michael Bay. Number 2, The Departed, Martin Scorsese. And number 1, Boogie Nights, Paul Thomas Anderson. We did it. Our first Hall of Fame for 2025. I know I've said this at the beginning of the last 2 years that we've done this, but I'm going to try and make an effort to be able to do one Hall of Fame per month, like usual, Dustin. Like I said, next month, we're getting ready for the Oscars, and one of our favorite actors who we were supposed to do this past year, and then I got swamped with other stuff, had a movie that got nominated for just a few Oscars. Jesse Eisenberg, we're doing next for February.
Ooh.
Hit it. You know what you're gonna do.
Eisenberg. Jesse Eisenberg. Yeah.
Exactly. We're finally doing him. He's going to be next. So, in the meantime, Dustin, thank you for joining me once again for another Actor Hall of Fame. Where can the good people follow you on the interwebs?
Dustin Mason on Letterboxd, YouTube, Mr. G Movie Reviews, and Twitter, Duster.
And you guys can follow me with everything going on at Movie Nerd Reviews across all platforms, at Official Talkin TV Podcast across all platforms. Be sure to join us tomorrow morning as Luke and I break down the 3-part Season 1 finale of Lost. It's been a long journey, but we finally made it here. In the meantime, 12 seasons in a short film and watch more fucking movies. We'll see you guys this year on
Eisenberg.
Jesse Eisenberg.
Yeah.
Talkin TV.